When the Polizei, the German police, came to our house, I was at our neighbour's flat. My mum and sister were in our apartment. Our neighbour saw them walking to our house and hid me. But they wouldn't even knock at her door. They went straight to our flat and took my mum and sister and left.
Yuri Fuchs was 5 years old at that time. Only years later would he learn where his mother and 3-year-old sister had been taken to. Babyn Yar, a ravine near Kiev. In September 1941, the German Wehrmacht conquered Kiev. Only days later, they started arresting its Jewish population. Babyn Yar, just 5 kilometers outside the city, was where most of them were killed. More than 30,000 people in just the first 2 days. It's one of the biggest massacres committed by the German army during the war. Besides his mother and sister, Yuri lost his grandparents in Babyn Yar. His father died at the front. Yuri stayed with a neighbor.
We moved out of the apartment almost immediately and lived on the outskirts of the city because people would get a reward for turning in Jews, a loaf of bread and a half a litre of oil.
For 2 years, they hid in a suburb of Kiev, but were found out shortly before the German retreat. Yuri and his neighbor were brought to a collection point near the train station.
I remember clearly. It was a sunny day like today. We had to stand there until the evening and were surrounded by men with machine guns. We saw officers coming and going. By that time, people knew about Babyn Yar and thought that is where we would be sent. But it seems the Germans would not risk that anymore.
By that time, the Red Army was approaching and the Germans were obscuring the traces of their crimes. Fuchs was lucky again. They were deported to Western Ukraine. It was in the town of Vinnytsia that Fuchs saw the Red Army taking over a few months later. Today, Babyn Yar is officially a memorial site. But political bickering and disagreements over the concept have delayed a museum that is planned on site.
I think it is imperative that this museum be built. We are not talking about a site where 2 gangsters were in a fight or some person killed another person, but about a genocide. I would love to live to see it, but I don't know.
At the age of 85, Yuri Fuchs is one of the last survivors still alive.